You've hit play on the Screen Companion, where we'll help you pick something for movie night. Our second half of the episode focuses on David Cronenberg's The Fly, that sees journalist Veronica falling in love with scientist Seth Brundle, who successfully invents teleportation in his secluded warehouse lab. However, after Veronica goes to deal with ex-lover Stathis, a drunk, jealous Seth teleports himself and is accidentally merged with a fly that snuck into the machine. Be afraid, be very afraid, as Seth's initial elation at going through the teleporter turns into tragedy. Behold, the hideous Brundlefly, obsessed with his machine and his woman. Andrew, let's not bury the lead here. This was your first watch after people have hyped it up to you for forever. How are they selling it to you, and do you agree with their assessment?
It was mostly sold to me as really gross and one of the goriest things I'll see. It was gross. I wouldn't say it's one of the goriest things I've seen. I remember you telling me when I watched it, you were like, don't watch it at night. Watch it at the daytime where you can still have some palate cleansers before you go to bed. And I watched this movie last night at like midnight and just went straight to bed. And I was fine. I was totally fine. It's definitely gross. It's some good body horror, but I think it was overhyped for me, I think, in the grossness. But I feel like that's every movie where people tell me, like, oh, it's really, really nasty. It's never as bad as I think it's going to be. That would be my thing to people, is just kind of like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's probably not as bad as you're imagining.
I could recommend you some things I think would deliver in that way.
Yeah, he's got a few snuff films he's made. He airmail them to you.
Don't watch for the cop.
Well, yeah, that sounds about right, Andrew. I knew part of my explaining it to you was colored by the fact that the first time I saw it, I was like 9 years old.
Oh, if I saw this at 9, I would have been beside myself, so I wouldn't have been able to handle this as a kid.
I wasn't saying don't watch it at night because I thought you'd get suicidal or anything. It's not a super happy movie, so...
Oh, it's a bummer. Yeah, it's a bummer, but nah, I got some good sleep.
Ian, where do you think this rates within Cronenberg's oeuvre? You and I have already done The Dead Zone together. What else would you say about his work?
I'm embarrassed to say it. I haven't seen that many of his films. I've seen more of his recent stuff. Eastern Promises and History of Violence, and this most recent one, what was it called? Crimes of the Future. I've seen Videodrome as well. I would say this is my favorite of his films. Although, as far as what people know Cronenberg for, as like these Cronenberg monsters, I think the best Cronenberg monster is actually not in a Cronenberg film, it's in The Thing.
Barring his non-fanciful work, like you mentioned his Vigo phase, I think The Fly is the best marriage of horror and heart. I couldn't get into Videodrome or something like Existence as much as I wanted to because I didn't get enough interpersonal drama. The Fly rectifies that for me, and this could have been a straight 80s relationship drama between the three leads if you took the monster stuff out. On a podcast, Cronenberg has said he doesn't like the term body horror applied to his work. He says, quote, "For me, it's not horrific. It's the body beautiful or something, not body horror," unquote. I got a sense of that mentality in watching it behind the scenes that showed them filming one of the Brundlefly effects, and one of the artists off-screen says, "How's that?" And the director goes, "I feel sick to my stomach. It's great." And off of that, Ian, have you ever had a reaction to something you were filming, and then you took a moment and thought, if it wasn't through this lens of art, I might think something was wrong with me?
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Especially on my last film. I'm not really big on gore, but up weirdness and some real bleak darkness I've been on set for. And when you're on set and you know it's fake, but you're looking at the playback monitor and realizing like what you're giving to the world. Some moments where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? But then I remember like all of the great movies that inspired me that the directors must have been feeling the same way. I think there's everything right with making art that's challenging and distressing, because at the end of the day, it is just a movie. And this is a good way to deal with the horrors of real life in a safe way.
Andrew, does anything in particular jump out at you in this Fly as being 80s?
I mean, other than Gina Davis's hair, it's kind of a timeless way that they told it. Even like the dialogue where Seth is talking about the computer, where it's just, it's dumb, it only can do what you tell it, or it only knows what you tell it. That can still be applied. I mean, maybe not nowadays because of AI. I feel like you could do the telepods with an iPad. So I think this is a story that could be easily adapted again if they wanted to, and actually not too long ago read that they might be doing another The Fly movie. We'll see how they adapt it to modern times, but it feels timeless to me.
John, do you think the science is more believable here or in John Carpenter's Thing? Which computer monitor stuff did you like more?
This one. I think this one, The Fly. I liked that the computer gave it the old college drive. There was two. I didn't know what to do, so I just made a whole new thing. Check it. How many transporter accidents are there in Star Trek? And I'm pretty sure at one point he brought up the idea, is it the same person who's been transported, or is it a clone of now a dead human? And it was definitely a throwaway line while he was doing his Jeff Goldblum-isms ranting, but I like this one better overall.
Wonderful advertising, John. Listeners, I'm pretty sure before this episode comes out, John did an episode with me where we talked about Captain Kirk and The Enemy Within, which is a transporter accident episode. So go watch that if you want to learn more about philosophy and how it applies to transporters.
Yeah.
Why didn't you ask me about that episode? I would have been all about the original series.
Uh-oh.
Hey, we've done 2 so far. We'll do more, Andrew. Don't you worry. We'll get you.
Okay.
Okay.
Become an active listener by joining the Screen Companion. Subscribe on YouTube, hit us up on X, and our Facebook group. Let us know your favorite episodes and what topics or films we should tackle next. Further support the host by buying his novel, Self-Recognition, a futuristic detective story, available on Amazon in print and digital formats. Now, back to the show. Andrew, don't feel like I'm rewarding your interruption, but what do you think stands out about Jeff Goldblum's acting? Where do you think he stacks in relation to other notable prosthetic portrayals from the 80s, like Tim Curry as Darkness or Peter Weller as RoboCop?
Oh, this is a tough one. I like Jeff Goldblum, but he plays almost the same character never. He's a character actor in the most singular word of the term, I think. He always plays a fast-talking, I have an idea, like this really weird guy. Even in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, he was playing almost more straightforward character. It's still Jeff Goldblum. It's the tone of his voice. It's the way he speaks. So I always knew it was Jeff Goldblum. I think in terms of the 3 performances that are referenced with, you have Jeff and Tim and Peter, they're so vastly different. It stands with them. Like, I would not say that either one was leagues better than the other. If I had to rank them, I would say for sure Tim Curry goes first, just because, good lord, that looked great. But, Peter Weller and Jeff Goldblum, it's 2 completely different characters and 2 different relations to body in terms of the story. Peter Weller, it's him being a machine, really, with a face just kind of stapled around an android head.
Oh, look at this. What's this? I don't know. I seem to be stricken by a disease with a purpose, wouldn't you say? Maybe not such a bad disease after all.
I can't stay.
No. Why not? Why can't you?
I can't take it. It's too much.
That's what it takes. The disease has just revealed its purpose. We don't have to worry about contagion anymore. I know what the disease wants.
What does the disease want?
It wants to turn me into something else. That's not too terrible, is it? Most people would give anything to be turned into something else.
Turned into what?
What do you think, a fly? Am I becoming a 185-pound fly? No, I'm becoming something that never existed before. I'm becoming Brundlefly.
One thing that Jeff Goldblum brought to this with the prosthetics, and it comes with his tone of voice and the way he speaks, is there is an element of comedy that came along, but it was refreshing because this movie was such a downer. But when he was turning in, he's just getting more and more grotesque. But he's just treating it like a science experiment. He's like, all right, well, let's see what happens, and then he makes the video where he's talking about how he eats, and he's just like, it's a vomit drop. Can't think of a better name. He's making these kind of little quick remarks, and he added a level of levity to it that really helped with how gross the movie is and how much of a bummer it truly is. He's going through this horrific transformation, but I always went back to feeling for Gina Davis as the truest victim in this movie.
John, why are you laughing?
I'm thinking about the opening scene where he's just like, hey, come back to my murder pad, my murder vault. And she puts up very little fight. And then they almost immediately cut to warehouse district. She has no idea who this guy is. She's about to go in this empty warehouse with him. It's like, girl, you're going to get murdered.
But it's sexy Jeff Goldblum.
Is it?
That is some peak Jeff Goldblum. Him and Jurassic Park are peak. When he's injured in Jurassic Park and he's doing that sexy lean.
Oh, yeah.
He's got basically Ricardo Montalban pecs.
From all those push-ups, yeah.
To go off your point, Andrew, if I'm interpreting some of what you're talking about with Goldblum's acting in the prosthetic, that perhaps the makeup effects did more of the heavy lifting in the portrayal than he did?
I would say yes. The makeup and the prosthetics definitely did their job and showed just really how awful and terrifying this transformation is. It's almost like Jeff Goldblum's approach to the character at that point was, how is a scientist going to make the best of it and learn while he has the opportunity to do so? How he was approaching it after his ear fell off. It all sunk in. But he's essentially going to die pretty quickly. Now that I'm talking about it like that, I don't know who else could have done it as well as Jeff. When he's crawling on the wall and he's just kind of like, hey, look at me, it's kind of like, okay, that makes sense. Of course he can crawl on the wall. He's a man-fly.
I wanted to build off of your premise. When we're talking his performance, what he brings to it, I feel like what he's doing, for the most part, is what any of us would have done if we had to do that role. He's doing a Quasimodo hunchback deal, quick movements, a tick like a fly. But when you compare that to something like Peter Weller as RoboCop, and you see his physicality, I never would have thought to move that way. There's such an artistry to it that Weller and, I think his name's Yoni Akim, his movement coach, they brought to that character. But Jeff Goldblum, when he read the part and he started putting on the prosthetics, he just thought, be a big fly.
I am the fly.
It doesn't feel that inspired.
What else are you going to be, though? The movie's called The Fly.
I thought he put a little more physicality in it than some of his other roles, because he would just have a weird head tick every now and then.
I do wish he rubbed his hands together a little more often.
He did a couple times.
he wasn't devolving yet, but when he was putting a lot of sugar in his cappuccino, I thought was really funny. But, I mean, that's also how I would want to drink that, and I'm not a manfly.
That you know of.
I'm going to bet that that was written into the script.
Well, yeah.
That it wasn't an ad-lib by Jeff. Andrew, let me ask you. Horror isn't one of your top movie genres. Tell us, what's the main reason these flicks usually turn you off?
The three big ones would be cliches, a samey factor, and unintentional comedy are the things that put me off the most. There are a lot of horror films I've seen. It's not supposed to be funny, but I find myself laughing out loud. And it's either because a character did something dumb. So the first Nightmare on Elm Street had me until Nancy, okay, so she pulls Freddy out. Now she's duking it out with him. It turned into almost like a Three Stooges short to me. Because, like, she's knocking him downstairs. She's lighting him on fire. Like, you know, he runs up the stairs and then she, like, just kicks him or something or slams the door in his face. He rolls down. And it's just stuff like that that makes me laugh. This guy's killing people and now all of a sudden he's just getting, you know, the snot kicked out of him by this teen girl. In Aliens, even though it's not really a horror film, when Ripley's in the mech just punching the queen, I thought that was funny.
Made for a good action figure.
It did. For me, like, that's the biggest barrier, is, like, horror is such a stark genre because it's meant to scare you. It's meant to pick out of paranoia or some type of fear of society at the time. And so if it's funny, then it's, ooh, you're undercutting the scariness. I've seen horror films I thought were absolutely amazing that weren't unintentionally funny. I just feel like a lot of them are. And that's my biggest barrier.
Ian, do you feel horror movies are better when they have smaller budgets?
I think generally that rule is true. The temptation to show the monster or just add more VFX in, which almost always is a bad idea in a horror movie. The studio will also be messing with the pacing. Their instinct generally is, if people are buying tickets to a horror movie, they want to be scared, and we need to start scaring them early or else they're going to turn on us, and I think that's a really wrong instinct. On a smaller budget, you probably have more control over the cut, and you can actually pace it correctly so that there's enough lead up to the scares so that you don't see them coming. I haven't liked many of the bigger budget horror movies to come out in the last decade or so. Good example would be the It remake, which is just chock full of scares, CGI, scary ghouls and things. There's just way too much. Only have like a few real scares that you can fit into one movie, I think. If you're constantly getting scared, then you're actually not scared anymore. Like, you might just jump at the first one and then it's over. You need enough time to build. You need to pace it so that people aren't expecting something to happen when it happens, because otherwise it's not surprising.
John, are there any inherent weaknesses in the horror movie genre besides viewers who don't like to be scared or made uncomfortable?
A lot of times, the search for tension leads to boringness, because it's a very difficult thing to achieve, making it very easy to screw up. You can end up just with boring segments. It's like Ian said, that, you know, you're looking for that jump scare early. And a lot of the jump scares are pretty cheap, too, in horror. You just end up with this cheapness, loses the audience. Especially the people who want to be there, and it just gets lost.
I'd like to build on that and say, I think horror movies are most abused by unimaginative filmmakers. I don't have the data to back this up, but it feels like the greatest percentage of terrible, lower-budget films that have been theatrically released are horror movies. Producers and directors exploit the genre and shortchange fans. I don't think that applies as much to something like sci-fi fans. I don't see the attitude there being, give them lasers and spaceships and it'll be successful. Whereas the math in horror feels like it equates to fans want blood and jump scares, end of story. which for diehard fans, I bet that's true, but they repeatedly lock the rest of the audience out, and I don't sense that reputation getting much better.
I would have to disagree if you're looking at horror movies coming out today. The found footage genre is not really that gore based. I think you're more referring to like the exploitation films, think of the 70s, and then died out in the 90s, maybe late 90s. People aren't that shocked anymore by gore. Or I don't think they're buying tickets just to see gore. That went into this what's called torture porn now, like the Saw franchise and things like that, which I'm not a big fan of. But I think mostly you see a lot more supernatural horror films and a lot more like suspense-driven stalkers and based in reality, true crime-inspired horror. I would have to disagree now, but I think, yeah, if you're looking back through like horror's history, you're mostly right. It's definitely more elevated when people seek out a horror movie. They're looking for more than just, I want to see someone's head get cut off. If those kind of people can just Google that now and see horrific things anytime they want.
What do you think are the best conditions to watch a horror movie? Is it always better at night? Do you think it should be experienced alone or in a group? Like someone hires you as a consultant to set up their living room and the food, drinks, whatever, like paint us a picture.
Yeah, it is definitely better at night, 100%. The screen size doesn't matter as much as like how much is it taking up your field of vision. If you're watching on a laptop, I don't know, you should be a few feet away from it, as long as the screen is mostly taking up your field of vision. Sound is super important. Headphones if you're watching alone, for sure. Otherwise, a decent speaker. Obviously best if you have a 5.1 setup, but, you know, not many people have that. Watching with a friend, I would say one person is good. If you have a group, then people are going to start making jokes and ruining the scares or talking over the movie.
I wouldn't do that to you, Ian.
You wouldn't do that?
He lies.
We've watched movies together. You know I wouldn't do that.
With a larger group of people, if somebody starts talking in a theater, they know there's going to be consequences. So actually sitting in a room with 50 plus people that are all staying quiet adds like an extra level of tension. So I'd say horror movies in the theater are equally effective as watching a horror movie alone at night with your headphones on. Those would be my two recommendations there. Best case scenarios, either in the theater or alone with headphones on, or maximum one person with you.
Returning to our movie, what thematically in The Fly worked for you?
What I found really unique this time watching it, I think only my second time watching it.
Me too.
Yeah, okay. So the fact that the scariest moments of the movie, which for me were like his first symptoms showing, the hair and then his nails coming off, those moments are scary in a very unique way that you don't see in many horror movies, where you're not scared of your main character getting harmed by something externally. It's actually kind of coming out of empathy, the fear.
Have you ever heard of insect politics? Neither have I. Insects don't have politics. They're very brutal. No compassion. No compromise. We can't trust the insect. I'd like to become the first insect politician. You see, I'd like to... Oh, I'm afraid...
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I'm saying... I'm saying I'm an insect who dreamt he was a man and loved it. But now the dream is over and the insect is awake.
No, sir.
I'm saying I'll hurt you this day.
Later on, he becomes the monster that you're supposed to be scared of for Veronica. But at the beginning, you're just scared seeing him devolve. And they do a really good misdirection early on when it's like, okay, we know that he's merged with the Fly, but maybe that's better. He's turning into some kind of superhero. Maybe that's the direction it's going in. And when it starts to become ugly, that's a kind of a unique scare. I'm trying to think of other good examples of this, but generally that kind of thing, it's more based in drama. We don't want to see something bad happen to this character, but it's not like a killer is waiting outside. We don't want to see them get killed. It's like you're afraid of what this character is doing to themselves. I think the love story should have been stronger. I'm not sure who was saying this earlier. I was talking about like how strange it is that she's getting in the car with this guy at the beginning after just meeting him. They could have had them be like college friends or something that meet at this party and haven't seen each other in a long time, and maybe there was some kind of lasting romance. Maybe they never dated, but Jeff Goldblum's character always had a crush on her or something. But at least that she knows who this is before it all takes off, because everything is rooted in Veronica being horrified of what's happening to him. But the whole time I'm thinking, like, you just met this guy. How deep can you... And she's so, like, he's disgusting and horrifying, and she still is going into the apartment and talking to him and sitting down and hugging him and everything. And
oh, with all that throw up on his chest. Oh.
Yeah.
It's really gross. If that love story had just been more believable, I feel like it would have been more horrifying. They just met, right? They're basically like in the just hooking up phase, and she's already head over heels for him. He's already head over heels for her as well. I just didn't find that very believable or relatable.
Goldblum's got a gold dick.
Well, I guess that's one way to put it. Yeah, they show that it's like a very physical relationship. Like right after he shows her how his pods work, she's just into him. Also, her boss, who's like, I guess her ex, they give us no reason to like this character. Immediately unlikable right from the beginning, and you just can't imagine why she would ever be with this guy. And then you're supposed to feel bad for him later, but I didn't.
Not at all?
No.
You sick man.
I wanted more. I wanted more to happen. Yeah.
Well, you know, there was a shot cut out of that scene where after Brundlefly vomits on Stathis's hand and foot, we actually get a beat where he picks up the amputated foot and a proboscis comes out of his mouth and then he starts sucking on the foot.
Ugh.
Oh, that would have been great.
I knew you'd love that, you sicko.
That would have been more disgusting.
I would have loved it too, to be honest. It was pretty cool.
That's nasty. I like that.
Two directors from the same pod.
Yes, very much.
Becoming one director.
Andrew, take us through your favorite or most unsettling gross-out moment.
Ooh, I think the moment in the movie that made me squirm the most was honestly the arm wrestling scene. As soon as I saw two dudes arm wrestling, I'm like, okay, someone's about to get their arm broke. And it happened. The worst part of the movie would have been Veronica's nightmare when she gave birth to that larva thing. That was probably the worst part of the movie for me.
No kidding. Where do you think that comes from in your psychology? I actually wasn't that affected by it.
Could you imagine that being inside of you, dude?
Yeah, pretty gross. I bet you I could find a butt plug that's shaped like that.
You don't sound convinced. You definitely just lied to us. You did not have enough emotion.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that'd be gross.
Were you not disappointed that it turned out to be a dream sequence? That would have been much more horrifying if that actually happened in the story.
Oh my god, if that had been the ending?
Yeah, that would have been great.
That'd be pretty awesome.
No, because, well, I don't think he could have done that. Well, maybe as like an ending stinger to be like the gross twist ending at the end of it, I guess. And I think that was the worst part of it. It was the least expected, is what it was. Like, everything else, I knew that Jeff Goldblum's going to fall apart. Because he even said, like, oh, I'm going to disintegrate eventually. It's like, all right, I mean, I'm seeing him fall apart. That larva thing, that was just nasty. I was almost just expecting, like, some weird monster baby thing, but it just somehow it was worse that it was like a larva. Those things just gross me out in general.
What about the Museum of Brundle? His, like, bathroom cabinet that just has his...
Ah, he was so casual about that.
It's gross, but I've seen episodes of Hoarders. It's like, alright. He's a scientist. That's why when he was collecting all of his body parts, I just thought, like, for whatever reason, he's holding on to them.
I would have liked a scene where she doesn't know how far things have gone with him yet, and she gets to the apartment and doesn't see him, and is looking for him and goes to the bathroom and finds the Museum of Brundle. And then, like, from behind her shoulder, he's like, oh, are you looking at my museum? Missed opportunity there.
That one's my ear. That one's my wiener.
Ian, do you think there was enough gore?
I guess the only things I would call gore would be like ear falling off and then the very bloody transformation at the very end. I don't find that kind of thing scary or even really squeamish because it was just a big puppet. I could have just used more of the transition. I think that was the most effective stuff. Like when the hairs are just starting to come out his back and they're coming out more, and then you start noticing like, hey, he's got these weird spots on his face. The nails coming off was very effective. I could have used more of that stuff, less of the actual blood and guts of the ending. I also think the prosthetics he wears just come on way too early. He becomes unrecognizable as Jeff Goldblum like pretty quickly. Like the transition of him becoming the Fly, I wish it was a smoother one to where we don't really realize when we can't see his face anymore. And I think everybody, especially nowadays, almost everyone is a hypochondriac because the second you get any kind of weird thing with your own body, you can Google it. And I think it's very relatable. I would have gone way more in that direction, have like the onset go slower and throughout the movie.
You probably would have also liked this bit they cut out where there's a tumor-looking growth on his side. It would be revealed that there is a fly leg inside, and it would jut out, and then he would chew it off with his teeth.
Oh, he chews it off because he wants to eat it, or that's just like the easiest way for him to get rid of it?
Easiest way to get rid of it. Well, yeah, he's freaking out in that moment.
Yeah, that's pretty good. They cut that? Wow, they cut a lot of the real meat of the movie then, sounds like.
No pun intended.
Gotta ask if that was a pun.
To me, it's like if you're making a gross movie, make it as gross as possible. You know, stick to that goal, and anything that's making it more disgusting should be left in. That's my philosophy.
John, I got 2 questions for you. The first one's very quick. I just thought of it. Is it possible one of the stages of Seth's transformation, did it maybe remind you of the Toxic Avenger?
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you would liken his makeup to?
I don't know, because he's even under the heavy makeup, he still looked like Jeff Goldblum.
There's a bit of Elephant Man in there, which is funny because Mel Brooks produced that movie as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
But my real question for you, do you think the body horror element is pivotal to this movie's success? Like, do you think it could have worked if it were toned down to PG-13?
I don't know about success. It's absolutely pivotal to the storytelling. So I'm going to say yes to the success, even though asterisk I'm not sure. But I'm going to say yes, because it is very pivotal to the storytelling. You really do need to know all this gross stuff that's going down with him. Gross stuff.
I've only watched this movie once before in its entirety, back when it was on Monster Vision on TNT. And that was edited for TV, but it scared the hell out of me because, like I said, I was very young. As effective and well integrated as the gore is in the theatrical version, it does make me want to go back to it possibly never. I'm not complaining about the pre-accident scenes, except I knew what was coming, and I wasn't looking forward to it.
He throws up too much. That was super gross. What was that scene where he's casually talking to Gina Davis and he's like, I'm going to eat this donut now, and he just throws up on it, and she's like, what the? And he's like, oh yeah, gross.
That was great. I love that.
And then she still hangs around. She does not run for the door.
She hugged him after that. She's like, you poor thing.
Because she loves him.
Yeah. They've had sex probably a total of 3 times.
No, wait a second. They had a marathon F session earlier in the movie.
Okay, yeah, but I don't feel like there's any way they would be this deep in love when this happens. Maybe the original Fly, the only thing that it did better than this one was have the characters already married. You couldn't get more likable actors to play these characters, and they have real-life chemistry, but they still somehow made it not believable for me just because of the writing.
Well, to take a second to say something nice about the movie, because you guys are just ripping it to pieces.
Oh, I love this movie. We're picking it apart, but I still really love this movie. Just want to say that now.
I think its biggest strength is that they never bit off more than they could vomit on. Thank you, John. They had conceived of another gross scene involving Seth splicing together a cat and a baboon, and Seth had to beat it to death with a lead pipe. They shot it, but test audiences didn't dig it. They turned on the movie when that happened, so the filmmakers rightly took the scene out. But also probably more to do with the effects team only getting 3 months of prep. They saved the crazy stuff for the last half hour. They build the drama so that every grotesque moment has weight behind it. That's what's going to put the gore over the top, at least for me. Stathis having his hand melted off is so much more meaningful when you remember he's been Seth's romantic rival the whole movie. But I've pulled some quotes from critic Karen James's New York Times review when the film came out. Quote, "This all-out, flaunted goriness becomes distracting, and it destroys the fly. Mr. Goldblum is wry and understated here, but Miss Davis is stiff, and John Getz, as her editor and former lover, is simply a rat. These two are just waiting for the show to start. This lifeless triangle is the first misstep in a film that tries to be too many things at once. Emotional issues become ludicrous jokes. Brundle tries to talk the pregnant Ronnie out of aborting the fly fetus she may be carrying. The plot diminishes to, how can he possibly look worse? And should I watch? This is intense, all right, but not scary or sad or even intentionally funny."
First of all, the tries to talk her out of an abortion is such a casual way to say he busts through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man and kidnaps her, absconds into the night. Side note, it was weird that the body horror movie became a commentary on abortion rights.
True.
I don't think it got distracting. It was a gross movie, but I don't know if the grossness got distracting. Read the last part again.
Sure. Okay, the plot diminishes to, how can he possibly look worse? And should I watch? This is intense, all right, but not scary or sad or even intentionally funny.
The answer is yes, you should watch.
I think this is where we get into criticism as a profession, because I was curious, based on this review, which I don't agree with most of it. I don't think it's a positive review. So I looked at some of her other reviews of horror movies, and yeah, she doesn't seem to be a big fan. I feel like if you don't like the genre you're reviewing, that should be in the first paragraph. It's like, hey, everybody, just so you know, This is coming from a person who doesn't want to see a drop of blood. I don't want to feel scared. Keep that in mind as I go through the rest of my scathing review. That's a good segue. Andrew, what's your toughest criticism for this flick?
I really liked this movie. I will say, like, a lot of things, they do seem very rushed. The movie is just a little bit over 90 minutes, so it is a really short film, which I like. But this is one of those movies where you could stretch it out. I think Ian's idea of throwing a line in there that Seth and Veronica knew each other from the past, that would have been a good way to explain the intense relationship. That's if that's an issue for people. I really wasn't bothered by it. To me, it just didn't make sense for Seth to go off the deep end once he was first fused with the Fly, when he did have all the powers, and then he started getting terrible acne. It's like he was fused with the horniest and just the biggest asshole of a Fly, because he just turned into such a dick for no reason, it seemed. It didn't seem to be in line with what I perceived to be his character, where he's all of a sudden super strong. There are these weird hairs growing on his back. He never stopped to question it. He was just like, dude, I'm awesome. And that was it. I would have thought that would have raised red flags. He came out of the teleporter super strong. And all of a sudden he's putting all sorts of sugar in his coffee. And he never stops to think, why am I different if I solved the issue of the flesh, as he was waxing poetically on it for a while? Because he wasn't the same. The baboon was the same, although he didn't run the battery of tests on it before he put himself in there in a drunken stupor. But, like, the baboon wasn't doing all sorts of crazy stuff. It was sitting in a chair, and then he goes into the teleporter. That was kind of the weird thing, was how he started going on this ego trip. Maybe if they made him, like, bullied as a kid, but I think that's super cliche, that, oh, he was bullied, now he has all this power, so he's a jerk. Because then he just went out and he was like, time to pick up a hooker, gonna break this guy's arm, gonna get mad at everyone when they tell me something's wrong, and then all of a sudden something's wrong. And then he goes back to being Seth Brundle.
What was effective about that stuff is I felt like that was an allegory for addiction, substance abuse. Somebody with a new drug problem, and people in their life are saying, like, what's wrong with you? Everyone else is seeing the red flags. Someone starts shooting up heroin. They think that they're Superman for a little while until they realize, oh, I've lost my house and my family and everything.
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
You're too chicken to be a member of the Dynamic Duo Club? Okay, then great. I'll find somebody else. Somebody who can keep up with me.
Seth, you have to listen to me.
You're afraid to dive into the plasma pool, aren't you? You're afraid to be destroyed and recreated, aren't you? I bet you think that you woke me up about the flesh, don't you? But you only know society's straight line about the flesh. You can't penetrate beyond society's sick, gray fear of the flesh. I'm not just talking about sex and penetration. I'm talking about penetration beyond the veil of the flesh. A deep, penetrating dive into the plasma pool.
I have a feeling that this movie is a metaphor for addiction. The onset might have been too fast. Like you're saying, like him suddenly becoming this asshole. Which I think goes back to my criticism first of, like, I wanted the transformation to happen a bit slower, more gradual. The fact that he is ignoring the red flags because he's got these new abilities, I think that's what makes it a relatable experience of, like, I don't know if anyone here has had addiction issues or knows people that has, but that's generally how it is. You have a friend that suddenly is acting different. Their life is starting to spiral out of control. It doesn't matter what you tell them, how many red flags they see. They don't generally notice until it's too late, which is exactly kind of what happens to Jeff Goldblum here.
Having just gone through that with a friend and having seen it work a lot, very accurate.
Having people in my life that have gone through addiction and seeing, like, the true horror of that, the relatability of that happening to this lovable character that Jeff Goldblum's playing.
And anything that comes out in the 80s, people invariably say it's an AIDS allegory. However, David Cronenberg, when he was making the movie, he was actually thinking more about just generally the aging process. And he's spoken about how he thinks getting older is effective for horror because, well, it's something everybody's going to go through. And everybody's going to die eventually. I had heard that about what he thought about the movie between the first time I saw it and the second time. And yeah, the second time I really imagine Seth aging rapidly and just becoming a really old little man. And everything's falling apart. John, could this have been emotionally satisfying with a happy ending? Or would anything other than Seth's doom have felt like a cop-out?
The happy ending would be a wrong choice. He's got to go.
Agreed. Not a shocker for me. The bleakness of the ending is really what sealed the deal for me the first time I watched it. All I knew is guy becomes a fly and it's scary, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. I want to see this. The darkness of the ending I didn't see coming, and that really solidified my enjoyment of the movie.
John, after the 50s original and this, is there territory left worth exploring in a future remake of The Fly?
I don't think so. I think they've covered both sides of this coin. All the changes they made were for the better. And I feel like at this point, if you're going to make something, you've got to make other changes, and that's just going to be for the worse.
I don't want to enter superhero territory, but I want a Fly movie where it's not fatal, nor is it cured. Maybe the movie begins 6 years after the accident, and the monster haunts countryside farms up in northern New Hampshire during manure season. He's not the star of the picture, but facilitates another group story like The Headless Horseman and Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Hollywood, come at me, I'll write that script.
That's your happy ending, is when everyone realizes he's just after mountains of poop.
You know, it's funny that you say the superhero thing because it dawned on me that, like, well, obviously they're going to remake this movie because they're going to remake every single thing that was even mildly successful from the past. If they were to remake this movie, keep it more or less under wraps, change the name, and market it like a superhero movie. Keep it mysterious, but mostly use footage of when he's getting his supernatural abilities. That would be so effective if you didn't know.
Wait, you mean like a bait and switch?
Yeah. I really miss those. I love it when it happens. It's so hard to do these days because of social media and somebody on set is going to leak something.
And lawsuits?
Have it be an R-rated thing. Be like, okay, it's going to be dark, but this guy's like, just so you're not expecting that he's going to turn into, that it's going to be this disgusting, scary thing that happens to him. All right, this is a superhero movie for adults, and it's got a different kind of twist on it, and it's mysterious. So you just keep the marketing a bit more mysterious, but that it's leaning on action. Still has a hard R for, like, violence, so you know that that's coming, but you just don't know that it's going to be horrifying. Like, you think it's going to be an action. That would be fantastic. Some people would be pissed off by that, but I think other people like me, would have been like standing ovations for that if they were able to pull it off.
Andrew, which scenario would be the worst? Watching the last hour of this film while you're eating, right before you have sex, or in a classroom with fifth graders?
Oh, the classroom with fifth graders, dude.
Really? That's the one I'd love the most.
No.
They would be so animated.
I'd be watching the kids the whole time.
I don't want to be in a room with kids, like, screaming and hooting and hollering. It's just too much noise. I would just want to watch the movie. You're giving me, like, 2 of the 3 options are quiet, and then there's a third loud option, and I get it, but no, dude. I can't do it. I've walked out of the theater because the crowd just was terrible. I'm not going to put myself in that situation.
5th grade, they're like 10 years old.
Yeah.
I would think a lot of them would be crying.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
You'd have the kids that are like the naughty kids that just make a joke of everything. But then I think the other half of the class would be literally in tears and screaming at you to turn the TV off.
Let's close out this episode with the final pitch. Ian, as TSC's patron saint of horror, sell the Cronenberg fly to horror fans.
One, you should see it because it's a part of history, more than the original. This is the one that you need to see if you're going to watch one of these films. And we haven't just spoiled the movie enough through this review. It's a unique kind of horror. I know everyone's like throwing around the term body horror, but even then I feel like the kind of scare that you get from this movie is very different. It's like based in empathy for the main character versus fear of what's going to happen to the main character. You're seeing something disgusting happen, but you feel so bad for the main character in a really visceral way. This is one that you have to see if you're a horror fan, and anyone that's just a film fan in general needs to see this movie just to understand how film history has gotten to the place it is now. This is a formative movie.
Maybe you didn't know this about its contribution to film history. This 86 fly pushed computer-aided camera moves forward in a way that hadn't been done up until that point.
Really? Wait, you mean like automated camera rigs?
Yeah, in order to shoot different plates for compositing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, I didn't know that.
It's not that they invented it, but that before then, films would use it and they would be shooting at lower frame rates and they'd be using miniatures. But this movie uses live action stuff at a regular frame rate. And I believe maybe not only this, but especially the shots of the telepods activating and you got that shiny white light inside the pod. That was shot using different plates and computer-aided camera moves.
That is so cool. Okay, another reason to watch this then. That's a major advancement. Wow, that's cool.
And I'm going to throw you a shout out, John. When I heard that factoid, I immediately thought of All the Datas in TNG, because that show came out just after this. So maybe they owe all those multiple datas to The Fly.
Truly standing on the shoulder of giants.
And Andrew, perhaps the most well-adjusted among us. What's the argument for non-horror viewers to check out the 86 Fly?
It's the uniqueness, and it's where the horror comes from. When I think of a typical cheesy horror, it's a killer's on the loose, or a monster's on the loose, and a bunch of people are going to die in horrible ways, and that's the only reason why you're watching it. And that's not the reason to watch this movie. It's a good character piece, and all the bad stuff that happens to these three people, one of which you don't care about, but the other two you do. And it's just rough. It really is like the empathy factor, and just it's a different type of horror.
Did you dial into the final few shots of the film? Did they grab you?
Oh, yeah. I felt badly to him, like, up till the end. I mean, he melted this poor dude's body parts. I mean, there's all this stuff going on, and then, like, at the end, he's like, he managed in his very last moments to be in a worse place than he already was. It's just so sad. It's like, oh man, this guy's getting screwed at every turn.
Yeah, he threw gasoline onto a fire.
Yeah.
Would it surprise you guys to learn, if you'll remember the very, very end, I believe it just fades to black.
Very abrupt.
Then we get that wonderful Howard Shore score. Love the music in this. Originally, they entertained the idea, and they went to the artist for this, of putting a Brian Ferry song over the end credits. So that you would get this 80s R&B song to close out the movie. That would have been so terrible, and I'm glad they didn't do it. They understood. It's like, no, don't play 80s music after this.
I'm glad they didn't do that, yeah.
That'd have been too 80s.
I don't wanna be alone. Won't you help me?
You've reached the end of this episode of The Screen Companion. Thank you for listening.